A great evening to you, everyone. Warm welcome to Business Live here on Joy News. With me, Pious Kojo Backah. Coming up in our headlines, National Petroleum Authority outlines distribution mechanisms for petroleum products sold under Gold for Oil program as it targets 50% of market share and significant price reduction from next month.
We are going to ensure that if you are supplied fuel or petroleum products under Gold for Oil, that it truly reflects the prices at the pump, because ultimately that is the aim of government in introducing this program, to ensure that fuel is affordable.
Also in this bulletin, economist Professor Eric Osei Isigbe warns of more downgrades of Ghana's credit rating until an International Monetary Fund deal is secured.
It should be expected, and I'm sure the market had already internalized that, into their projections into the economy. Because, and I'm sure we are going to see more of that until a deal is reached between our external debt holders and government, and then also the IMF program comes on board.
And those were the latest commodities updates. Straight to our very first story. The National Petroleum Authority has outlined mechanisms for distributing petroleum products sold under the Gold for Oil program to oil marketing companies. Now, the authority argues that the mechanism should reduce prices at the pumps from next month. Chief Executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, has been addressing journalists at a media engagement here in Accra.
For 3 cargoes of Gold for Oil petroleum consignments have arrived in the country. The first one was for 40,000 metric tons of, I'll use the ordinary language, of diesel. And then in the last week, we have had 35,000 metric tons of petrol, and then also another 40,000 metric tons of diesel that have come especially under the Gold for Oil program. Our goal is that ultimately the Gold for Oil program should account for 50% of petroleum product imports into our country, and then the rest of the 50% would be done through the normal channels by the BDCs and so on and so forth. But where MPA comes in as a regulator is that we are going to ensure that if you are supplied fuel or petroleum products under Gold for Oil, that it truly reflects the prices at the pump. Because ultimately that is the aim of government in introducing this program, to ensure that fuel is affordable. They used to call the Minister for Security, Kandapa, Mr. Affordable, when he was Minister for Energy, But ultimately, we want it to be affordable. The first consignment, people called me to ask me, but we understand the first consignment under Gold for Oil has come. Why is it that it hasn't reflected at the pumps? Now, what happened was that, of course, 40,000 metric tons is not enough to, if you want, cause a significant change in the prices. But even so, one of the highest buyers of the Gold for Oil product in the first consignment was GOIL. And GOIL's prices were brought down by up to about 70 pesos. Other OMCs that also got some consignment of Gold for Oil gave us a reduction of about 10 to 20 pesos. That's still not significant though. So this time, MPA's Gold for Oil team, which is led by the Deputy Chief Executive, Pious Kojo, the Sheila Ado, the Policy Coordinator, and there is Abbas Tasunti. They've come out with a brilliant idea that in this second consignment of Gold for Oil products that have come, we are going to sell only to OMCs with not less than 45 outlets. You see, because
away from the petroleum downstream sector, Ghana should expect more downgrades from ratings agency until a deal is reached between government and external debt holders, as well as the International Monetary Fund. This is according to senior lecturer at the Department of Economics of the University of Ghana, Professor Eric Osei-Esigbe. Now, ratings agency Fitch this week downgraded Ghana's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating to restricted default from C after the country missed the grace period to make a coupon payment of $40.6 million in one of its Eurobonds. Now, speaking to Joy Business, Professor Osei-Esigbe described the recent downgrade as worrying. He is, however, confident of stability if proper measures are put in place.
It's not good. It's because, like I showed, once you're having this negative, information coming up, it tend to introduce noise into the system that can trigger some kind of attacks on your currency and all of that. But largely it has to be expected because once you are defaulting, government is suspending debt repayment, coupon repayments and all the other things, then you don't expect the Fitch to give any credit to that, right? Because the Fitch is reporting for businesses, is providing good insider information so that they decide where to put their money. So if they have given their money to you and you are not paying, it means that the default risk probability is high. So they will downgrade you, right? So it should be expected. And I'm sure the market had already internalized that, into their projections into the economy. Because, and I'm sure we are going to see more of that until a deal is reached between our external debt holders and government, and then also the IMF program comes on board. Then we begin to see a reversal of this. But once we are in this difficult moment, such downgrades should be expected, especially when you are touching on debt and then defaulting to a large extent. You will see some of these things.
Now, should we be worried?
Of course, we have to be worried, but I'm saying the market is expectant of it, right? It's a path towards coming out of this difficult time. So I don't think the market will react so much to it because they know that this process is necessary. It's a necessary evil for us to come out of this quagmire because it's a precondition to securing the IMF loan. If we are able to do that and the IMF loan comes out, this confidence and credibility issues will come back and then we'll begin to make some recovery.
More on the economy, economist and lecturer at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Pious Kojo Backah, has indicated that upcoming election year will be a threat to the prudent measures if government has put in place to revamp the economy. Now, Ghana has long suffered from extended budget deficits in election years as it overspends in a bid to win votes. Dr. Kojo Backah fears that history could repeat itself. She was speaking on the maiden edition of the 2023 Joy Business Thought Leadership Program.
Look at the data from 1992 till date, you would see that even though our fiscal deficits have been way above what the West African Monetary Zone, which is the 3%, it's been way above that. About twice, generally. In election years, apart from 2004, you see that the average we've done is around 8.1%. So I don't see anything, I don't see that anything is going to be different next year because if you track the data, you would see that every election year we overspend. So even when we had IMF on our necks, we still overspent. Wow. It was minimal, but we still overspent. So the same thing is going to be happening next year. It's a threat to all the prudence that we are trying to get as far as our fiscals are concerned. I think that, as David has mentioned, we need to see clear commitment from the side of the government. I thought that when some ministers resigned, the government was going to be using that as an opportunity to downsize the number of ministers we have. People say it's not going to make any difference, but you see the difference is going to be making here is the signal is going to be sending to our investor community
and give more meaning to the boa.
Precisely. Right.
And a little while on the economy, and director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey, has expressed optimism Ghana's economy will bounce back next year only if strict and prudent economic measures are put in place. Professor Peter Quartey was speaking at the maiden edition of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry's National Dialogue Series on the impact of the debt exchange program on Ghana's private sector. There is more in this report. At the forum, the director of the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research, Professor Peter Quartey, noted that if government is able to secure the IMF deal, it will put the economy on a sound footing. He was, however, quick to add that there are some eminent challenges government would have to quickly address in order to achieve its economic growth target.
From the IMF, you engage them, they tell you, this is what I want you to do. I believe the discussion about cutting down on spending and all that came to bear, and they chose this option. So our debt levels certainly has reached unsustainable levels. We have to reduce it. We have to reduce the repayments. I showed you data that 37.1% of our revenue is spent on debt service alone. So if you want to opt out of this, I don't think you can totally do so. We can do both. We can do restructuring and also cut down on the size of government. I don't think one will do the magic. The extent to which you do it is the issue.
On his part, convener of the Individual Bondholders Forum, Senor Hossi, stated that there must be a conscious effort from all and sundry aimed at changing the economic structure of the country.
We are selfish. And I cite this same DDE reaction. And the issues are there. There are things that government is supposed to do. Government is not doing them because they are thinking about their own skin. And I said it. While we represent pensioners too at the IBF, we also saw a pension forum, and we had our fathers forget about their children. Our fathers and mothers, you forgot about your children, and saying that government should just take you out. That tells you who we are. In this DD, there are a lot of cultural structures that have really unveiled itself. We are selfish. I don't think we see Ghana first. We see Ghana when it's football. I think we see ourselves, we see our tribes, we see other things than Ghana. Because if it were, this Ghana would be what we are talking about today.
Meanwhile, President of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Clement Seamwaku, tells Joy Business his outfit will be mapping out new strategies to cushion its members from the adverse effects of the domestic debt exchange program.
We think that there are some windows that we have to look at and address them and keep our members strong to try and work hard, break even, and even if they can make some small profit for now, just to sustain their business, we have to look at it. As a chamber, I think we have been challenged that subsequent we need to even intervene earlier and move forward and address issues rather than even allowing it to happen, for which we did. But then I feel that it was not adequate. And we have been challenged by this meeting that everybody, every Tom, Dick and Harry, be you an individual, the government and everything, must play a key role in bringing the economy back on track. And that is basically why we are trying to work with our members and reposition them to help them in the other ways that they can also make some money to sustain their business without laying off their workers.
The Chamber's National Dialogue Series is designed to serve as an advocacy platform where industry experts are engaged on economic and private sector issues of national relevance with the overall goal of ensuring a conducive business environment and the attainment of policy objectives. Moving on to some other stories, banks' profit for last year witnessed some significant decline. Well, this was captured in a new report by the Bank of Ghana. There is more in the following report.
Bank of Ghana in its report noted that the profit after tax for all the commercial banks put together contracted by almost 19% to 4 billion Ghana cedis ending December 2022. When you look at the profit before tax, it also declined by almost 14% to hit 6.4 billion Ghana cedis. The decline in profit, according to the regulator, was on the back of higher cost and provisions during the year, which moderated the impact of higher income in 2022 on the bank's net profit. Some industry analysts, however, believe that the debt exchange program also had a negative impact on the earnings of these commercial banks. Some are even worried that the situation could get worse this year. The Bank of Ghana noted that going forward, the performance of the banking sector will largely depend on this debt exchange program and how it is finalized. It was, however, optimistic that some safeguard measures that he has introduced will help deal with the challenges that lies ahead for the banking sector this year.
And that's it for our program for tonight. I am Pious Kojo Backah. You can get business stories when you log on to myjoyonline.com/business. We've got some international business for you.